This is the Geoffrey and Richie Show. All sports, all talk.
Hello there, and welcome to the Geoffrey and Richie Sports Show, your weekly sports podcast. I'm Richie Benno, and I'd like to introduce my colleague, Geoffrey Boycott. Good morning, Geoffrey.
Morning, Richie. Morning, everybody.
How are you?
I'm feeling a bit run down, but I think I'm on the verge of laughter.
Okay.
Which is a problem.
It
So I will try and maintain my professionalism as best I can.
To be honest, I don't doubt that you will, but yes, it's a special
That's
show,
the reason
show
I'm
this
close
week,
to
isn't it?
laughter. Yes.
I mean, last week we had the whole in different locations and everything else, and I must apologise here and now if any of the listeners out there was a slight technical issue with myself and Geoffrey being in different locations. If you were using speakers,
I was in
some
Jamaica
form.
from memory.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, Jamaica, of course, lest we forget. So yeah, I do apologise if there was a slight technical issue. We have resolved that for any future shows where we were in different locations, but accidentally we've fallen upon a little gem for us, because this is a slightly different show this week. It's going to be completely dedicated to cricket, as opposed to our usual ramblings about other sports. But we've also, Geoffrey, got our first ever guest.
I know, which is why I'm on the verge of laughter. It's crazy times here.
It is mental. I mean, I think it's fair to say he is...
Is he actually there? We're still not sure, but anyway, let's push on.
We're going to assume he is. We are going to assume he is. Because if he's not, then no one will ever hear this, ever. Because we'll just delete it. Yes, number one fan of the show. And I am ranking them in order.
Yeah. One of one.
One of one. We've yet to find number two. But, yeah, I'd like to welcome on to the Geoffrey and Richie Sports Show, Chris Hanlon. Chris, are you there?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Oh, thank goodness.
There's a pregnant pause there, and we didn't like it.
How are you, Chris?
I'm very well. Yourselves?
Yeah, absolutely fine, absolutely fine. A bit nervous. I mean, obviously, this is big. It's certainly big for us. How are you feeling being the first ever guest? This is pressure.
It's the moment of my life.
Oh, good lad.
Is it a good moment?
The moment, that's all I'll say.
Oh, okay.
We've kind of brought you into this show, obviously, for cricket purposes, because, I mean, we have made reference to you in the past. You've obviously emailed
Every
us.
week, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever we mention a fan or a listener or anyone that's emailed, it's usually you. And yeah, you are going to be our cricket correspondent, our external cricket correspondent.
No pressure.
If
No
that's
pressure,
okay.
I'm honoured.
You're quite happy with that title, yes?
Oh, I love the title.
Excellent, excellent. Well, yeah, as I say, we're going to talk all things cricket. We've got a host of things to cover and everything else. But I think the whole world wants to know, Chris, what's been your take on the South Africa series?
I've loved it, absolutely loved it. I think it's been thrilling stuff from start to finish. I think we've received a little bit of stick, I think, from the South Africans thinking they've thrashed us, and we've got away with it. But I think it's been very even.
I have to say, I totally agree with you. And, I mean, our record in final test isn't bad, as we'll come on to and talk about in a moment. But I think there is this perception that we're kind of a bit fortunate to be 1-0 up. What do you think, Geoffrey?
I wouldn't necessarily say that we're fortunate. I mean, obviously, the two tests that we were sort of, I guess, to a degree, hanging on with, certainly from past recollections and memories being the performances, normally we would just collapse and capitulate, and we'd have no hope of holding on. But the fact that we now have kind of an inner strength, I guess, to a degree. Certainly in the last test, I had more of a feeling that we would be able to hold on. And I guess whilst they have, to a degree, outplayed us in those two test matches, obviously the crucial thing is for them to have been able to take 20 wickets. They haven't been able to do that. And therefore, I guess we've just about edged the position that we're in. But it has been obviously exceptionally close. And given that South Africa were the number one ranked team going into this test series, I know that Australia now have regained that spot. I don't think anybody would have necessarily thought we'd have performed as well as we have done.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, thoughts?
I couldn't agree more, to be honest. I think the two tests that we have drawn and supposedly got away with, I think were actually pretty close. I don't think they by any means thrashed us or we were hanging on. It just happened to be us batting last, and we managed to get the draw.
I have to say, it kind of grates on me a little bit, and coming back to what Geoffrey said, the rules of the game are 20 wickets, end of story. You pick a team to take 20 wickets. That is, your primary goal of a test match. And they haven't done it in either of the 3 tests for whatever reason. You can't say weather's played a massive part. Obviously maybe, for example, going back to say, the 05 Ashes in the final test when, we needed to hang on at the Oval. There was a little bit of rain and there was a play ending early on a couple of the days. I don't think it's played a major part here at all. And I agree with Geoffrey. There is this inner strength.
There's a lot of agreement with me here. It's brilliant.
It's wrong. It's absolutely wrong.
It's rare.
I certainly think there is this inner strength. I think there is a slight difference in mentality as well when you are, maybe not at the outset of the innings, but certainly it becomes clear quite early that, England are not going to win the game. For example, in the last test, it was pretty clear pretty early that we were not even going to attempt to chase down. No. And we've got a couple of guys in the 11 that, that really is their forte. Collingwood springs to mind,
Blocking,
obviously.
We're talking about here.
Yeah, how low his bat was on the final day for some of the third test there was a little bit laughable, I've got to say. But it just strikes me that we have, as is different from before, people that are more suited in that role.
I agree.
Stop agreeing with me. Stop agreeing with me.
What can I say? I do.
Chris, who's been your player of the England team in the 3 games so far?
Well, there's so many to choose from. To be honest, I think Graham Swan again has to deserve a mention. I think bowling and batting, he's been superb. Jimmy Anderson has taken a lot of wickets.
And given obviously that prior to the first test, there was a lot of talk of Anderson carrying a knee injury, and to be honest, if he is carrying an injury at all, then that obviously puts his performance into an even greater perspective.
And he's brought a huge number of overs as well, so if he is carrying that injury, he's done very well.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Swan. Let's face it, I talk about him as if he's my lover. And he's just been absolutely awesome and is, for me, a bit of the heartbeat of the team. And I think he's also the guy that people look to for the inspiration now. Just to focus on the bowling for a second, I think that person almost used to be, he used to be KP in my eyes. People look for that inspiration from him. He's a different player now, and we'll come onto the batting side in a moment. But from a bowling point of view, I wouldn't say he's like Harris in the way that Harris jumps up, after every ball thinking something's going to happen. But he certainly doesn't hold the back at all. And I think Strauss has learned a little bit from the likes of Swan and Pryor that, if there's any referring to do, they're going to do it. It doesn't really matter. And you can almost sense that Strauss wants a kind of an input from a third person before wasting a referral, because Pryor and Swan are always going to refer it because they always think it out, it seems.
Okay, are we waiting for a response from there? Anybody?
Either of you will do.
Well, to be honest, I don't really know what to say at that point. My apologies. Chris, I think you come in.
I think Swan's attitude to the whole game is brilliant. Likewise, you say about him sort of being very forward with his appeals. Also, if you think of his batting, as he comes in, I think it was the second test, wasn't it, where we were in quite a situation. He came in and just started smacking it all around the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes you just need that. He doesn't change his batting for anyone. He doesn't change his bowling for anyone. He just does what he thinks will work and what he enjoys doing.
Absolutely. I think there's an element of, when he goes out to bat, it is pressure off in some degree because there aren't the expectation. If he goes out, and is out for 2, then he at the end of the day, that's not his role in the team. Is to be that man, getting the 85s as he did in the second test, as you say, and things like that. But I think it's almost as if, this is really, it probably sounds a bit pathetic, but it's almost as if he makes players around him better.
Geoffrey and Richie.
If you'd like to download the full version of this special edition of the Geoffrey and Richie Sports Show, go to iTunes. We are the Geoffrey and Richie Sports Show. You can also find us on Facebook. You can email us. Our email address is geoffreyandrichie@hotmail.co.uk. You can check out our blog. That's www.geoffreyandrichie.libsyn.com. You can also follow us on Twitter. The username is G&R_podcast.
This is the Geoffrey and Richie Show. All sports, all talk.